the reporting. Pamela Brown, thanks. Joining us now is Barak Barfi, who is a close friend of journalist Stephen Sotloff, currently a spokesman for the Sotloff family. Barak, thank you for being with us. I'm sorry for your loss and the loss of everybody in the Sotloff family. Just first of all, I mean, what do you want people to know about Stephen? Because, I mean, just looking at his career, the amount of time he spent in very dangerous areas, you know, dedicating and risking his life to tell the stories of people whose voices often weren't heard, that's what really has struck me.
Anderson, Steve loved the Arab and Islamic world, and he wanted to bring their suffering to the world stage. He believed that everybody was created equal, and the people in the Arab and Islamic world weren't terrorists. They were just people like you and me who wanted to live, who wanted to give their kids a good education, and possibly travel to Europe when they had the time and money.
And I understand you spoke to him just shortly before he was taken.
I was with Steve the morning he was kidnapped. I saw him off at about 7:30. And then minutes before he was kidnapped, he called me from inside Syria to tell me that he was in. And then minutes later, he was kidnapped by ISIS.
He knew the risks, and yet he did it. He repeatedly went out to tell people stories.
Well, Anderson, for the first time, we can say Stephen was sold at the border. Stephen's name was on a list that he had been responsible for the bombing of a hospital. This was false. Activists spread his name around.
He was sold at the border.
Yes, we believe that these so-called moderate rebels that people want us, our administration, to support, one of them sold him probably for something between $25,000 and $50,000 to ISIS, and that was the reason that he was captured.
How do you know this?
We know this from our sources on the ground. That it happened so quickly that when he was kidnapped, they didn't have the time to mobilize those resources. Somebody at the border crossing made a phone call to ISIS, and they set up a fake checkpoint with many people, and Steve and his people that he went in with could not escape.
When you've heard the administration's response to all of this, what do you make of it from your vantage point?
The administration has made a number of inaccurate statements to say they've said that the families have been consistently and regularly informed. That is not true. I speak now only from the Sotloff family. I can't speak for the other families. They said that these hostages were moved frequently. We know that for most of the beginning of this part of this year, they were stationary. We know that the intelligence community and the White House are enmeshed in a larger game of bureaucratic infighting, and Jim and Steve are pawns in that game, and that's not fair. And if there continues to be leaks, the Sotloff family will have to speak out to set the record straight.
What do you mean that they were pawns? Can you say more?
Well, I'll just give you one example. People now are talking about the torture that some of these hostages suffered. People talked about specifically some of the tortures that Jim suffered, and that's just not fair to his family. They need time to heal. And there was an article last week in the Wall Street Journal basically revealing some of the details of the raid. The Pentagon and the intelligence community were pushing back against the White House and saying it was their fault that they didn't provide the surveillance necessary to find the hostages.
Do you feel, but at some, you're saying that if the administration continues to say things which you believe are not true, and the Sotloff family says are not true, that what the Sotloff family will reveal, will have more information to say?
Anderson, the relationship between the administration and the Sotloff family was very strained. Yes, we do not believe that they gave us the cooperation we need. And the Sotloffs, once Steve appeared in that video, the Sotloff family made one simple request of the administration, and they were rebuffed on that.
Can you say what the request was?
I can't say that because I have to think about protecting the other hostages inside.
The White House has put out a statement. I just want to read that to you. They said, "We understand the very real pain the Sotloff family is feeling at this time. Our thoughts and our prayers are with them as they grieve Stephen's loss." They go on to say, "We condemn the murders of Stephen and Jim Foley, and we remain committed to bringing the perpetrators of these crimes to justice." Do you have any response to that? Or
Anderson, when your view into the largest and most powerful government in the world is 2 FBI agents, that's simply not enough. For 80–90% of the interaction you have with the government, that's not enough. The administration could have done more. They could have helped us. They could have seen them through. These are people of modest means. They are not cosmopolitan. They don't have college educations. They don't understand the larger ramifications in foreign policy. And we just do not believe that they were afforded the opportunities and the respect that they should have by this administration.
What do you hope to see a change in the way families are dealt with, a change in the way hostages are dealt with?
This is the first time that we've had so many Americans kidnapped and held by an Al-Qaeda or a jihadist group ever for so long amount of time. The government needs to set up a crisis center. It needs to coordinate better between its arms of government. It needs to establish early on a senior administration White House point of contact that the families can contact on a regular basis, not 5-6 months in, not 8 months in, at the beginning, so that the families know there's someone to hold their hand all the time. And we need to be able to work closer with our allies. Intelligence sharing and cooperation just isn't as good as it should be.
Do you have any response to the idea that the U.S. intelligence may have identified at least one of the people in that video?
Anderson, we know a lot of the hostages that have come out, and they've told us things about people in the prison. So these British guards are known as the Beatles. We had a lot of information on them. We know that they had East London accents from people who told us from the inside of the prison. So we know a lot about their modus operandi, who does what, who's in charge, who's the smarter one, who's the one who does more Islamic preachings. There's a lot of information out there.
I appreciate you being on, Barack Barfi, and I appreciate, again, given the sensitivity of this, there are other hostages being held. I know that's something that weighs very heavily on you and the entire Sotloff family. And again, my condolences to you and the Sotloff family. Thank you. A lot more ahead. A respiratory virus